Hello everyone, my name is Gillian Hammer. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at DataBank. With me today is Rosalind Dennis, the Fund Manager for ArkFund. She'll be joining us in our series, Time with the Fund Manager. Today she will be talking about ArkFund's performance for 2018 and also what to expect in 2019. Rosalind, welcome.
Thank you, Gillian.
Let's start by you giving us a brief overview of ArkFund. What is ArkFund?
The name Ark says it all because Ark connotes a safe haven. And ArkFund has been designed for socially responsible investors to ensure that they achieve their aim of capital growth, aligning it with their values.
So what do you mean socially responsible?
Socially responsible means investors who would want to make sure that the underlying investments that we place their money in does not degrade the environment, is not in equities that will not support their religious beliefs, for example, investing in tobacco, would not support spoiling the world in which we live in, such as ammunition.
Okay, so the fund will stay away from companies that invest in ammunition, tobacco,
breweries.
Okay.
And those that would pollute the environment.
So when you look at what kind of investments ArkFund has, with mutual funds, typically they are fixed income, equity funds, or balanced funds. Which one is ArkFund?
ArkFund is a balanced fund. And to put it specifically, ArkFund is a conservative balanced fund.
Explain.
Because the higher percentage or proportion of investments is in fixed income instruments. And fixed income instruments are less risky. And you know that there's a specific return that you are receiving during specific periods. So at the end of 91 days, 182 days, 1 year, or even 10 years, you are specified the investments and the returns that you receive. And so it's more secure.
Is there a certain amount or a target amount that you have in fixed income versus equities?
Yes, our target is to put 70% in fixed income instruments and 30% in equities. And equities are shares that are listed. So in Ghana, for example, equities are shares of companies listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And we have in excess of 30 companies listed on our stock exchange.
Now, with the balance of equities, 30% equities, 70% fixed income, what does that do for the risk in the portfolio and the fluctuation? So is it something that's going up and down all the time? How would you describe the risk for that?
Thank you, Gillian. So the objective of putting 70% in fixed income is to ensure that you are hedged against the volatilities that you would experience on the stock market. A case in point, last year, the stock market started very well. By the end of the first quarter, it had made a return in excess of 30%. By the end of the year, the return was negative 0.29%. And so if we didn't have a larger proportion in fixed income, we would have been very hurt by this performance.
So what was ArkFund's performance in 2018?
In 2018, ArkFund made a performance of 11.6%. And that compared favorably to our benchmark, which was 10.4%. Our benchmark is a combination of the returns on the fixed income benchmark, which is the 1 year note, as well as, so 70% of the benchmark is constituted of the 1 year note and 30% of the GSC composite index.
Okay, so ArkFund was launched in 2009.
Exactly.
So this year, ArkFund will be 10.
Yes.
And I mean, when people invest, it's about performance. That's the main reason they invest. So talk to me about ArkFund over the last 10 years. Like, what has been the experience for investors?
We are excited that ArkFund is 10 years this year. And we are happy to say that over the 10-year period, ArkFund has never made a negative return. Actually, if you had invested from the beginning up till now, you'd have made a return of about 460%, on average, year on year, that amounts to about 20% year-on-year investment return that you'd have made on the investment that you put in ArkFund.
So are you saying that every year I would have gotten 20%?
Exactly, Gillian.
But in the, with investments,
Yes.
is the return on ArkFund guaranteed?
It is not guaranteed because our underlying investment includes shares.
Okay.
So although the fixed income component is to some extent guaranteed, the equity component is not guaranteed because it fluctuates. There are some years when the stock market performs well, there are others when it declines. Actually, the stock market moves in cycles, and that is aligned to the performance of the economy as well.
So Rosalind, let's talk about the benefits of investing in ArkFund. Why would somebody, or why should somebody consider investing in this fund?
Okay. ArkFund's fund manager is DataBank Asset Management Services Limited, and we've been in the business of managing funds over the past 20 years.
Okay.
And so we have a wealth of experience in managing funds, and especially mutual funds. And this is strongly supported by our research team. So whatever investment decision that we take is backed by what is happening in the economy, our expectations, and we are able to forecast and invest in good investment instruments. Aside that, it provides an avenue for investors to invest steadily in the medium to long term. And last but not the least, this also creates the opportunity for those who would want to ensure that their investments are aligned with their social values. Because we do not invest in tobacco stocks, we do not invest in brewery stocks, no ammunition, which we don't have in Ghana yet, and any companies that can pollute the environment, we are not permitted to invest in.
I understand the point about ArkFund being targeted to people who are socially responsible investors, as you call them. But, there are a whole host of people out there who are not so fussed about whether they're investing in a tobacco company or an alcohol producing company. So for those people who just want a balanced fund that's perhaps conservative, some investment, can they invest in ArkFund?
Exactly, Gillian. They can invest in ArkFund.
Okay.
And because it's a conservative balanced fund, it means that you are hedged from the volatilities on the stock market. We have 70% in fixed income. And at the same time, too, you are getting the long-term benefits of investing in shares. So regardless of whatever social leanings that you have, if you would want a balanced fund, and specifically one that is conservative, then ArkFund is also the fund for you.
This is great information so far. I think it's very helpful to investors. But investors, some of them have a whole host of reasons why they invest. Some are looking to invest for retirement. And I would pause on retirement for a second and say, if somebody is looking for an investment product for that reason, can they also consider ArkFund?
Yes, they can also consider ArkFund because it's a medium-term fund.
What does medium-term mean?
A medium-term fund means that you should place your investment for a minimum period of 3 to 5 years. And so if you are looking at investing towards objectives in that period, you can consider ArkFund, as well as retirement. Because there are people who have neared retirement as compared to those who have a longer period to cover. So it means that if you are in your 40s, it leaves you with 20 years to invest towards your retirement, and you can place your funds in ArkFund.
Okay, now you've spoken about the benefits of investing in ArkFund. Are there any risks that people should be aware of? Like, is there a downside, or what should people know when they invest in ArkFund?
Investments in general usually have risk, and especially so if they have the underlying investment being in equities. And so some of the risks are that your returns can decline depending on the performance of the stock market. So it depends on the ability of the fund manager to choose equities that would give you good returns and that have a history of giving good returns to reduce that level of risk. We also have reinvestment risk to do with the fixed income instruments. For example, I might invest the fixed income portion at a rate of 18%. If there are changes in the economy, it means that if I'm reinvesting it after 6 months, after 1 year, I could invest in a rate of 15%, which would not give you a loss per se, but a lower return on your investment.
Okay. And now when we look into 2019, my question is what, based on how the year has started, what impact do you think, the environment, what's happening in the economy will have on ArkFund as we look towards the next 10 months of 2019?
Okay. So I'll start with what we're expecting on the stock market.
Okay.
We continue to experience declines on the stock market, but we believe that there's a lot of value in the equities that are listed, especially the ones that we have in ArkFund's portfolio. We're expecting that the year will end at 18% plus or minus 5%, which would also have a bearing on ArkFund. For the fixed income market, we are expecting that the rates will stabilize, will remain as they were in 2018. We've seen some rise in the shorter dated fixed income instruments. And so we would continue to take positions in that. But
when you say shorter dated, not everybody understands. So explain, what do you mean shorter dated instruments?
Shorter dated fixed income instruments are those that are less than a year. So the 91-day Treasury bill, the 182-day Treasury bill, the 1-year note, which is now the 364-day Treasury bill, as well as other fixed deposits, which are less than a year. So putting both of that together, we are expecting that the performance of ArkFund will be better than it was in 2019.
Very good. Do you have any final words for our viewers?
Well, I would say that ArkFund is the way to go, especially for our investors who would want a social alternative to their investment. Also, it's a conservative balance fund. So we are expecting that as many investors as possible will invest in ArkFund to ensure that you have steady returns in the medium to long term.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rosalind.
Thank you, Gillian.
So again, we come to the end of another session with our fund managers. Rosalind, we're very grateful for your insights. And for anybody that's viewing this, if you would like to find out more information about our funds, about our fund managers, please visit our website at www.databankgroup.com, and you will find fund fact sheets and you'll find all the details that you need to know about ArkFund and any other fund that we have. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.